So when you try and look at data, central tendency is something that tells you what the general behavior is. So let's say you've got a group of 100 people and you're thinking about, how much, water do they drink in a day? You're trying to answer that question. There's some health study that you're conducting and you're trying to understand how much water do people drink in a day. And for that, what you've done is you've created a sample of 100 people. And with those 100 people, you're trying to understand that fact. Now, let's say you have the ability of surveying out all those 100 people, and then the person who is leading the survey, maybe the manager on your team, comes and asks you, how can you explain to me, how best do we understand this? What's that number? What we are trying to understand through measures of central tendency is what the central behavior is. So on an average, or generally, what do people think, or how much water do they consume in a day, if that's the question that you are hoping to solve. When we say central tendency, what we mean is that we are not interested in aberrant behavior. We are not interested in what happens, once in a blue moon. We are not interested in those facts. We are interested in what generally happens. So central tendency is something that allows us to understand what happens generally. What's the common occurrence? What occurs commonly? Now, in that direction, you've got three measures to do, answer that question. You've got mean, you've got median, you've got mode. Now, what we'll do is we'll try and study these measures. We'll keep one example at hand and we'll then go out and try and study these measures. So let's think of a simple example. Let's say there are two classes. There's a class A and there's a class B. And there are 6 students in each of these classes. Now there are two classes. There's 6 students in each of these classes. And a test was conducted, which was scored out of 10, and you're basically, which was scored out of 20, and you're basically trying to tabulate the scores of the students in both of those classes. Let's say these are the scores: 1, 2, 3, 17, 18, and 19. The other class is 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. Let's say these are my two classes. I'm trying to understand, these two classes. I'm going to use certain measures of central tendency to do that. And let's see if we are able to achieve that. Now, let's say this is a class. Let's say you're and if I have to try and understand how the class behaves centrally, or if say the headmaster comes in and you're basically responsible for a particular class, and the headmaster wants to understand how the class is doing and how well, and this is a maths test, so what's the average proficiency level of students? How would you find that out? What number would you give them? Would you give them the marks of all the 6 students? Is that easy to understand? Let's say this is just 6 right now. Let's say there were 100,000 students in your class and you had scores for all those 100 or 1,000 students, and somebody wants to know what that class on average feels like. How would you give him a sense of what the class is like?
We'll give the mean.
You'd find out a mean, right? A mean is one of the most popular ways of understanding. You'd use something like a mean. That's the first measure that we're going to talk about. Mean in common colloquial terms is also called average. Now, mean is very simply, it's represented as mu in a lot of cases. It can also be represented with a bar on the variable in a lot of cases. This is defined as sigma xi by n. So if xi stores the marks for every student in the class, the mean basically calculates sigma xi by n. So it adds up all these numbers and gives you a average. Now let's find out the average for both these classes. What's the average for both these classes?
10.
Mu A is 10. Mu B is also 10, right? For both of them, the mean is 10. Now, if you use mean as a measure for understanding the class, can we say that both the classes are similar? Mean of 10? Not really, right? When I look at the class, they don't seem similar. Why aren't they similar actually? How would you explain the difference? How would you explain the difference between these two classes? Should you try and understand how every student in the class is different from the mean value?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That could be one way. But one thing that we know for sure is that this mean measure that we are using is not good enough for us when it comes to differentiating between these two classes. Can we say that? It's not good enough. It might be a measure. And in fact, if I were to compare these measures, for class B, the number 10 seems like a very good number to me. Whereas for class A, the number 10 seems like a very bad measure to me. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
The reason why I'm saying for class A, 10 is a bad number is because there's hardly any one student who resembles a student who would have gotten 10, right? In class A, you've got certain folks who got 1, 2, and 3. So much worse than a person who would have scored 10. There are 3 folks who scored much more than that. So they are much better, which means that when I say that this class on an average feels like a 10, it's a heavy misrepresentation of what class A feels like. Yes, because class A is very different from 10. From looking at it, I can say that class A is very different from a student who would score 10 in that exam, right? There's some people who are much poorer than that. There's some people who are much better than that. Whereas for class B, 10 seems like a very good number to me. Yeah. Because most of the people in this class seem to behave like a 10. They seem to behave like a person who would have scored 10 out of the 20. So that's a little strange, right? We've gotten a measure, but for one case, this measure is working well. In the other case, this measure isn't really working well. So we'll keep this in mind and we'll move on to the next measure for central tendency. The next measure for central tendency that we have is a median. Now, what's a median? A median is the 50th percentile value. You know what percentiles are? People who have given these competitive management exams. I believe nowadays even in engineering exams they have this percentile concept. Now, what's the meaning of a percentile? If I say that something, let's say you sat in an exam that had, let's say, 100,000 students who appeared for that exam, and let's say you scored 90 percentile. 90 percentile would indicate that 90,000 students, which is 90% of the total crowd, were behind you, and the rest 10% was ahead of you. You understand what percentile is now? Percentile basically indicates, if I say that somebody is at the 60th percentile, that indicates 60% of the crowd is behind it and 40% of the crowd is ahead of him. That makes sense? Percentile? Yeah. Okay. In this case, we want to find out the 50th percentile value. So when we are trying to compute median, let's say these are my numbers, x2, x1, x3, let's say up to xn. The first step is to sort these values. You first sort these values. Once you've sorted these values, you then find the middle value. The middle value is what we call the median, because that's the meaning of 50th percentile. 50th percentile would mean 50% of the values are behind it and 50% of the values are ahead of it. So the simple way in which we calculate the concept of a median is to find out the middle value in a distribution after we've sorted it. So let's say I have several numbers, 7, 9, 12, 14, 6, 4. Can you find out the, 3. Can you find out the median of this group? What's the first step? The first step is to sort it. So 3.
7. 7.
7 would be the median, the middle, yeah.
Okay, so let's write this first. 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, 14. So this is the sorted form. Once I've sorted it out, I want to find out the middle value. What seems like a middle value to me? This is middle because there are 3 values to the left, 3 values to the right. So this exactly is the middle value. So this is your median. Now this actually gets a little tricky when you've got an even number of points in your distribution. So let's say I did not, let's say in the case that we were working with earlier, how do we find the middle value here? What's the value on whose either side there are an equal number of points? You don't have any, right? If you choose this number, you have two on the left, 3 on the right. So this is not the middle value.
Yes,
If you
sir.
choose this number, even this is not the middle value, right?
Yes.
So both of these are not middle, which is why when you're trying to find out the median for an even number of points, you are going to consider these 2 points and find out the average of this. The mean value of these 2 points will be the median of this distribution. If you use that logic, what's the median of both these distribution?
10.
Mm-hmm.
10.
Okay. Both will be 10. If you look carefully, the mean of this 2 and the mean of this 2, both of them are
Yes.
equal to 10.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. 10.
yes. Yes.
So the mean of both these classes again come out at the median of both these classes again come out at 10. Everybody is comfortable with how I found out the median for both cases. So even number of
Yes.
observations and odd number of observations.
Yes,
Super,
sir.
super, super. So again, so we've learned something new, yes, but still we are at a problem. We've still not been able to solve the original problem that we were facing. What was the original problem? The original problem was to try and be able to differentiate between these two classes with the help of descriptive statistics. We started off with measures of central tendency. We looked at 2 measures, mean and median. Unfortunately, based on both these measures, these classes seem to be the same. Whereas by looking at the distributions, we can clearly see that these are hardly similar classes. One class is sort of a mixture of opposites. One class has a very evenly balanced group of people who behave similarly. So even with both these measures, we're still not able to get a sense of what the better class is, what the better, how the two classes are different from each other. The third measure for central tendency is a mode. Unfortunately, this is not useful for our scenario. Mode is a measure for central tendency that works better with categorical data. Now, what's categorical data? Now, if you think about data types, or we are going to discuss data types in a lot of detail when we get to the Python module. But if you generally think about data, there can be 2 kinds of data. Data is either qualitative or it's quantitative. What's the meaning of this? Quantitative data is data that is filled by numbers. What could be examples? Age, weight, income. If you're storing variables like these would be quantitative variables, variables that store numbers as their input. Whereas qualitative variables are variables that store strings or characters. Examples could be gender, hair color, you understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative? Qualitative stores words, alphabets, characters, whereas quantitative stores numbers. So you've got 2 kinds of data that you will typically encounter. You either encounter qualitative variables, which are variables like gender or hair color or what's the brand of your computer. These kinds of questions will have answers that are stored in the form of characters or alphabets, letters. Whereas there are other kinds of variables that store numbers in them. Columns like or variables like age, weight, income, these kinds of columns would typically store numbers. So when we're dealing with quantitative data, mean and median are the relevant measures for central tendency. When we're dealing with categorical data, that's when we're dealing with qualitative or categorical data, that's when mode becomes a useful measure. Now, what does mode do? Mode is nothing but a frequency count. Let's say you're storing sex of a person as one of the variables. There are 3 possibilities. Say male, female, say transgender. Let's say there are 3 possibilities of sex, and you've got observations for about 1,000 folks. Now, when you're storing this data and you have sex as one of the columns, and you want to understand a measure for central tendency, the way we analyze it is we basically do a frequency count. Out of the 1,000 people, how many were male? Let's say you had 450 males. How many were females? Let's say you had 350 females. How many were transgenders? Let's say you had 200. So that makes up my entire group. These are my total 1,000 people that I'm working with, out of which these are the relative distributions or the relative frequencies of each of the levels inside my categorical variable. What mode does is it finds out the most frequently occurring category, modal class. We call it the modal class or the mode of the distribution. So what is mode basically doing? It basically runs a counter and it sees that for categorical variables, which categorical value comes out the most. So if you're storing gender, which gender has most number of observations? You'd find that out and you'd say that based on my distribution, I can say that the modal class is male. Mode is clear. It again does something that is very similar to a mean or a median. Mean and a median are both trying to understand central behavior. They're trying to understand what a distribution does on an average or what a population does on an average, but they do it for numbers. They do it for numerical data. Whereas when you're dealing with character or alphabets, those kinds of data variables, that is when we use mode as a measure for central tendency. Mode helps us identify which is the most frequently occurring class. Now, inside the sex column, male, female, and transgender would be the three classes or the three different values that the variable can take. You're basically interested in doing a frequency count and trying to understand which value occurs the most number of times. And we call that the mode value. Make sense?
Yes.
This is still not relevant for our, this particular measure would not be relevant for the data that we've been looking at. So based on the data that we've looked at, we've tried out the two relevant measures for central tendency, and both of those measures for central tendency have yet failed to basically differentiate between the two classes. The reason why that happens is because we aren't using the concept in its completeness. We are basically using a part of the idea. And the idea suggests, so descriptive statistics tells you that central tendency alone is not enough. What you also need to add to it is a measure of dispersion. It says that when you use a measure of central tendency along with a measure for dispersion, that is when you really start understanding your data.